Chapter 41. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Lan's guidance informations as for the vegetative egg. How should he put it? It seemed to have become weaker. At the beginning of his discomfort, the black and white patterns on the vegetative egg began to fade. Jiang Lan felt its life force weaken. It was probably sick. In the past half a month, Jiang Lan had used the rainbow auspicious clouds once a day. Now, he was no longer using it. Jiang Lan wasn't sure if it was because he had used it too much, thus weakening the vegetative egg. After watering the vegetative egg with some spirit liquid, he left the netherworld cave. Ao Longyu and the others were originally cultivating, but as time passed, they felt that it was getting more and more difficult to be here. If not for the fact that they had their Dharma treasures with them, they would not dare to cultivate here at all. Thus, the more they trained, the more shocked they were about the junior brother of the netherworld cave. With their cultivation levels, they could indeed stay here for a long time. However, it was very difficult to cultivate. They had to resist the influence of the netherworld aura while cultivating at the same time. This was an extremely difficult task. Ao Longyu opened her eyes and looked at the bright deity array in silence. The further they got, the more troublesome the bright deity array became. Furthermore, it would bring them some pressure as well. This was something that all of their fellow disciples would encounter in the past. It was said that the bright deity array had been modified several times, but it would always bring about certain effects. They were actually modifying it as well. But the impact was still there. The pressure from the bright deity array is increasing. I think we should go somewhere else, Mu Xiu said. Yes, another place could reduce the impact. This was the experience left behind by their senior brothers and sisters. However, if they were further away from the cave, the effects of their cultivation would be inferior. But it was impossible for them to enter the netherworld cave, because they could not withstand it. Not changing locations would only backfire on them. A month was already their limit. Let's wait until after today. It will take some time to change locations. If we don't change it, it's easy to have inner demons. As Jing Ting spoke, he glanced at the netherworld cave. That junior brother has been inside for an entire month. Is there really no problem? I'll believe it if you say that he has already gone completely berserk. The ninth summit's master didn't come over to take a look. He probably has a lot of confidence in this junior brother. But I feel a little horrified. Mu Xiu was also surprised. It had really been too long. If they had never cultivated here, they might not have had too many thoughts about it. However, the more they cultivated, the more they felt that this junior brother was abnormal. Ao Longyu looked at the array formation in silence. She seemed to be thinking about something as she remained quiet throughout. As a dragon, her body would become stronger and her cultivation speed would far exceed that of ordinary people. However, if she wanted to be fast enough, she needed external help. The bright deity array was one of them. However, she also felt that they had to change locations, unless she resolved the pressure brought about by the bright deity array. The array, Ao Longyu muttered to herself. A guess appeared in her calm eyes. At this moment, they heard footsteps coming from the netherworld cave. To be honest, they were a little worried when they suddenly heard footsteps. They were worried that this junior brother had gone mad. After all, this was the entrance to the netherworld. It was not a joke. The three of them immediately looked up at the entrance of the netherworld cave. Soon, someone walked out. It was Jiang Lan, as calm as ever. Seeing that there was no problem with Jiang Lan's expression, the others also let out a sigh of relief. They planned to continue cultivating. However, Ao Longyu suddenly stood up. Jiang Lan originally planned to greet his senior brothers and sisters before heading off to busy himself with some things. Disregarding these people was a sign of arrogance. He had to have basic courtesy. Of course, the main thing was that these senior brothers and sisters also had basic manners. What surprised Jiang Lan was that this senior sister actually stood up and walked towards him. Is junior brother free? Ao Longyu walked up to Jiang Lan and asked softly. Jiang Lan had a feeling that Ao Longyu wouldn't say anything else if he said he wasn't. Senior sister, please feel free to speak, Jiang Lan spoke calmly. I have something to ask you, junior brother. Ao Longyu looked at the bright deity array and asked, do you think there's anything wrong with this array formation? Ao Longyu still remembered what had happened in the mystic realm. This junior brother so-called trick. That was already unbelievable to her. Without the repelling array formation known as a trick to him, she would have been dead. Therefore, she understood that a moment of weakness did not mean anything. Talent was important, but it wasn't everything. Jiang Lan and Mu Xiu heard Ao Longyu's words. They felt that it was ridiculous. She was asking this junior brother about this. Wasn't this just causing trouble? Even if the other party really said something, would he dare to do anything rash? This was simply treating his own cultivation as a joke. In any case, they did not think that such a weak junior brother could bring anything to the array formation. It was impossible. Jiang Lan thought for a moment before pointing at where Jing Ting was. Perhaps it will feel better if you remove that rune. Jiang Lan paused for a moment before saying, it's just my personal feeling. It might not be right. After all, I've only read some books and can only provide theoretical knowledge. Ao Longyu took a look and nodded. Then, she took out a book and handed it to Jiang Lan. This is the dragon language. It should be able to match up to your help. Chapter 42. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not looking highly, Ao Longyu wouldn't let Jiang Lan help for nothing. This way, they would not owe each other anything. Jiang Lan looked at the book and didn't refuse. He reached out to take it. Thank you, senior sister. There was naturally no need to refuse such a thing. Ao Longyu nodded wordlessly. I shan't disturb senior brother and senior sisters any longer. Jiang Lan glanced at the others before turning to leave. Jing Ting and Mu Xiu nodded as well. After Jiang Lan left, Jing Ting and Mu Xiu looked at Ao Longyu. It was as if they were asking senior sister Ao what she meant by that. Why did she do that? Ao Longyu looked at Jing Ting and said, junior brother, try wiping off that rune. Senior sister Ao, that was just a joke by junior brother. He himself can't be sure if it's right or wrong. It's just a feeling. Aren't you worried that something might happen if you mess around like this? That's right, senior sister. This could have a huge impact on our cultivation. Think it through before acting. The junior brother of the 9th summit is indeed extraordinary in certain aspects. This is something we can't deny. However, he is not proficient in cultivation or array formations. You can't act rashly on such matters, advised Mu Xiu. He was a foundation establishment cultivator, someone who had cultivated for a short while. Someone who had to use resources to quickly improve his cultivation. How could they believe him? Moreover, they would be putting their own cultivations at risk if they do. Ao Longyu looked at Jing Ting and Mu Xiu. Her expression was calm as she said gently, junior brother and junior sister, you can find another place to draw a new array formation. I'll try this. Hearing this, Mu Xiu opened her mouth, but she could not refute her. That's right. It was time for them to change the array formation anyway. Thus, even if they did, it would not affect them at all. There was nothing inappropriate for Ao Longyu to try. But they still didn't believe in it. Senior sister Ao, I know your cultivation level is high, your abilities are strong, and your talent is impressive. However, messing around could easily affect your progress. If something unexpected happens, senior sister's plan to advance to the essence soul realm will be affected, right? Mu Xiu asked. But it will be delayed as well if this continues. Ao Longyu's voice was very calm. She knew what she was doing. If she didn't try, advancing to the Essence Soul realm would still have to be pushed back by a few years. Jing Ting and Mu Xiu remained silent. Ao Longyu's identity was rather special. Time was tight, so it was normal to want to try. But there had to be some basis for trying. To believe in the disciple of the Ninth Summit. Sigh. They sighed and didn't say anything else. Instead, they went to the back to draw a new array formation. The new array formation couldn't be too close. Otherwise, it would be impacted. Ao Longyu changed the area that Jiang Lan had suggested. Then, she began to cultivate on it. Of course, she would not believe in it instantly. If there were any problems, she would stop cultivating immediately. For safety reasons, she even took out a Dharma treasure, one that could stabilize her mind and cultivation. It was a precious treasure her master had given her. She was very careful about everything. Jiang Lan flipped through the dragon language and realized that it was a little difficult to understand. However, he didn't expect to learn it immediately. He would just take a look when he was free. He heard that some spells had better effects when used in dragon language. He didn't know if it was true or not. If it was true, then this dragon language book was still very useful to him. He wondered if his previous understanding of the Taoist scripture could help him understand the dragon language. Almost everything he obtained from signing in had helped him in his cultivation. He had to learn most of the other things. However, there were times when he needed support. Jiang Lan wasn't greedy. He would work hard if he could. Stopping his efforts felt unsafe in the grand desolate world. He could not gamble on tomorrow with his luck. After cleaning the hall, Jiang Lan planned to clean the weeds on the road. Not many people walked on it in the first place. But if it wasn't clear, there would be a lot of grass. If people came here and could not find their way, it would make the Ninth Summit seem cold and deserted. Although it was the truth. After finishing all these, Jiang Lan wanted to look for his master. However, just as he was about to go, his master appeared in front of him. "Master," Jiang Lan greeted respectfully. "How are you feeling recently?" Mo Jingdong asked Jiang Lan. "I feel a little uncomfortable. I want to see if I'm affected by my inner demons," Jiang Lan said. He was indeed feeling a little uncomfortable. But every time he checked, there was no problem. He had never stopped cultivating the immovable wisdom king incantation either. Mo Jingdong frowned when he heard Jiang Lan's words. Then, he arrived beside Jiang Lan and tapped his forehead. A moment later, Mo Jingdong retracted his hand. "Have you been cultivating the rainbow auspicious clouds?" "I've been casting it on the vegetative egg," Jiang Lan told him truthfully. Mo Jingdong raised an eyebrow at the mention of vegetative egg. He naturally knew what the vegetative egg was. He never expected that it was an egg that could not be incubated. If he knew, he wouldn't have given it to his disciple. Fortunately, his disciple did not mind and seemed to be very happy taking care of it. "How's the vegetative egg?" Mo Jingdong asked. "It seems to be weak," Jiang Lan said. "Looks like you've made some progress on the rainbow auspicious clouds. You'll be fine after a short period of time. When you feel that your spirit has recovered, don't use it so easily. Spells are not divine powers, especially if they are related to luck. It can easily bring about problems," Mo Jingdong said seriously. This was his personal disciple, so he naturally did not hold back when nurturing him. However, there was also a limit. Going too far was as bad as not going too far. He did not want to destroy his disciple. Fortunately, Jiang Lan had a strong temperament. Otherwise, he would really have to drag things out for a few days until the time was right. Chapter 43. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The chance to step into the void refinement realm. Jiang Lan nodded at Mo Jingdong's words. He also felt that it was a problem with the rainbow auspicious clouds. However, it didn't seem to be of much use. Perhaps when he signed in, he could do one for himself. It might increase his luck. He wouldn't bother with it if he was signing in normally, but he would give himself some luck if he was signing in at an important place. However, the probability of it being useful was very low. After all, the rainbow auspicious clouds could not be compared to the great Tao. He should just take it as a form of psychological comfort. Do you have any other problems? Mo Jingdong asked Jiang Lan. Jiang Lan shook his head. No, he planned to stay at the library for 2 days. He hadn't figured out the bejeweled nectar wine yet, so he needed to find out more information. He originally planned to stabilize his essence soul realm before checking. But since he was free now, he might as well do it. However, while Jiang Lan was fine, Mo Jingdong wasn't. You've perfected the foundation establishment realm for a while, right? Mo Jingdong asked. Jiang Lan nodded. It's been some time. He knew that it was time for his master to help him again to advance to the Golden Core realm. But advancing to the Golden Core realm was not as simple as advancing to the Foundation Establishment realm. This would probably waste some of his time. However, Jiang Lan didn't mind. He would just walk through the process. He was still focused on cultivating his essence soul. Then, he would search for a chance to step into the void refinement realm. Take this. Mo Jingdong gave Jiang Lan a pot of wine. Jiang Lan realized that this wine bottle was similar to the one in the inn, but there were also some differences. He wondered where his master got this from. After Jiang Lan took the wine, Mo Jingdong continued, after the sky turns dark tonight, make a trip to the peaceful void lake and give this wine to the guard. He will take you somewhere. He will let you know what you need to do. The rest will depend on you. Mo Jingdong knew what kind of person Jiang Lan was. He didn't need to remind Jiang Lan like he was reminding a child. He would do it himself. If he spoke too much, it would affect Jiang Lan's judgment. Of course, if Jiang Lan's judgment was wrong, he would take responsibility as his master. Jiang Lan put away the wine and answered, "Yes, master." He had heard of the peaceful void lake before. It was the inn owner who said that if he gave the other party some good wine they would be enthusiastic and they would help. Was this what master's wine would do as well? But if it was that simple, his master could have just asked him to buy some wine. Why did he have to give him such advice and even passed him the wine directly? Perhaps it's not that simple, Bedouin Jiang Lan thought. Then, he left the peak of the mountain. Since he had to go at night, he could first go to the library to check for information or read more books. He did not feel like he needed to finish reading everything. It was true that knowledge was power. But what was more important was the ability to use this knowledge. Jing Ting and Mu Xiu were still drawing the new array formation. However, they were also paying close attention to Ao Longyu. A morning had passed, but Ao Longyu seemed to be fine. Senior brother Jing, can you sense senior sister Ao's current state? Mu Xiu asked with concern as she looked at Ao Longyu. Jing Ting shook his head. Junior sister Mu, it's not like you don't know. Senior sister Ao's identity is extraordinary. We can't see through her at all. Moreover, senior sister Ao is very difficult to approach. As for what's going on, it is even more impossible for us to know. We can only see what happens tonight. If there are any problems, the greatest possibility of it happening will be at night. If there were problems with the array formation in a short period of time, they could immediately tell. If it was a problem that was slowly accumulated, they would not be able to see it instantly because there were too many changes happening within. Do you think senior sister will be fine? Mu Xiu looked at Jing Ting and asked softly. Although the possibility was very low and almost none. But what if? What if she was lucky? That's impossible. No matter how I look at it, the junior brother of the 9th summit doesn't have this ability. Jing Ting frowned. He did not believe it either. But as long as Ao Longyu tried, there was still a chance of success. One could never be too careful. Let's wait and see tonight. Array formations aren't a matter of luck. Those who dare to try their luck usually do not survive, Jing Ting said. Mu Xiu didn't say anything. Instead, she kept an eye on Ao Longyu. For now, there seems to be no problem. They'll wait a little longer. If there was a problem, it would just be a matter of time before it'll appear. So it will have sufficient effect only for those with perfected essence souls. Jiang Lan came to a conclusion as he read the book. He had found some information, and the answer he received was not complicated. The bejeweled nectar wine could improve oneself when one's essence soul was half drunk and half awake. It was the same as achieving the most perfect state of his essence soul and reaching the door of the void refinement realm. Reaching this door was equivalent to breaking through to the essence soul realm and entering the void refinement realm. But it wasn't that easy. It might not be difficult to reach the perfected essence soul realm, but the difficulty lay in the void refinement realm. It was said that one needed a certain level of opportunity. As for the bejeweled nectar wine, it provided both help and opportunities. However, just because there were opportunities did not mean that he would definitely succeed. It's indeed not easy to enter the void refinement realm. However, with the bejeweled nectar wine, it is equivalent to having a 50% chance of success. Half was already very high. With his own hard work, he could more or less increase it to 60.7%. Fortunately, drinking the bejeweled nectar wine would put him in a special state in which his essence soul was half drunk and half awake. Therefore, it shouldn't affect him. Of course, it would be best if he could use his advancement to the essence soul realm as a cover. He hoped that on the surface, his cultivation would go smoothly. Chapter 44. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Taking the back door. It was getting dark. Jiang Lan closed the book. He had just researched the benefits of using dragon language. There were only some Dharma spells that originated from the dragon race. Only then would there be an additional effect. It did not have an effect on the rest. The prerequisite was that it required spells that could be casted with words. Dharma spells that could be casted by just using their cultivation techniques would not have any additional effects. Relatively speaking, it was far inferior to the Kunlun Heart Sutra. However, when it came to spells like the Heavenly Thunder Descent or spells that could bring about clouds and rain, its effect was still better than the Kunlun Heart Sutra. It was also beneficial to the spirit language spell. He could learn it when he had time, but his main focus was still on cultivation. He had to be clear about his priorities. Without thinking further, Jiang Lan left the 9th summit and headed towards the peaceful void lake. The peaceful void lake was not on any of the 9 peaks. Instead, it was in a more remote location in Kunlun, closer to the 1st summit. But for Jiang Lan, it was too far away. Fortunately, it had just turned dark. On the surface, his cultivation level was at the perfected foundation establishment realm. It wouldn't take too long to head over. The full moon hung in the sky. Jiang Lan arrived at the peaceful void lake. However, when he arrived, he realized that there was only a straw hut with a pond in front of it. There was a middle-aged man sitting in front of the pond. He was fishing at night. There were many Kunlun disciples sitting not far from the pond. It was as if they were all waiting for something. Or as if they were meditating. Jiang Lan could see that these people were not cultivating. As for what they were doing, he didn't know. However, he did not dare to disturb the senior who was fishing. Instead, he found an empty spot and sat down quietly. He would wait for further developments. However, he did not intend to waste his time waiting. Instead, he remained silent in his heart and began training himself. Of course, if there was any commotion in the outside world, he would wake up. After all, he was here to find an opportunity to advance. Just as Jiang Lan was immersed in thought, the middle-aged man who was originally fishing suddenly saw ripples appear in the pond. He looked at the disciples in surprise before his gaze landed on Jianglan. Perfected foundation establishment. His talent is a little lacking. But it was enough. Then, the middle-aged man moved his fishing rod and sent a drop of water in Jianglan's direction. Drip. When the water landed between Jianglan's brows, he instantly opened his eyes. Actually, he had already sensed it when the water drop came towards him. It was just that the speed of the water was very fast. He could not avoid it in time. This senior was also an expert. You. Come here. The ancient wine Taoist looked at Jianglan and said. Jianglan stood up immediately and walked up to the ancient wine Taoist. At this moment, the others naturally realized that someone had been called up. Who is this person? He was actually called up. That's right. Those of us who can't afford good wine can only calm our hearts here and wait for senior's guidance. Is this person that lucky? He's at the perfected foundation establishment realm. Amongst his peers, his cultivation isn't low. Why haven't I heard of him before? They were all very curious as to who this disciple who had suddenly appeared was. However, many people had never seen Jianglan before. I've never seen him before. He might be a new disciple, but he's already perfected the foundation establishment realm. Is he a genius? But why haven't I heard of him before? I think I've seen him before. Let me think. He's the disciple of the 9th summit. I saw him once during the treasure selection 30 years ago. The 9th summit. Didn't they say that there are no disciples there? There are, but their innate potentials are poor. But he's already perfected the foundation establishment realm. Any random person who is receiving all of the resources from a peak will be able to perfect the foundation establishment realm in 30 to 40 years. This is already considered slow. And if this continues, it will only squeeze his potential dry. It will be very difficult for him to go far. Jianglan didn't mind the small discussions around him. He only said respectfully to the senior in front of him, Senior. The ancient wine Taoist looked at Jianglan curiously. He naturally heard the whispers of the disciples. So he was a disciple of the 9th summit. Did your master ask you to bring the wine? The ancient wine Taoist asked Jianglan. He didn't want to mention it at first, but Mo Jingdong had promised him a pot of good wine many years ago. There was no reason not to get it and save the other party a pot of good wine. But it was no wonder this boy could stay in the 9th summit for so long. He was not simple. Yes. Jianglan immediately took out the wine his master had given him and handed it over. He realized that he seemed to have gone through the wrong process. Fortunately, it did not affect him much. The ancient wine Taoist took the wine and said with a smile, I'll send you to the 9th location of the peaceful void lake. How far you can go will depend on you. You will see everything you lack on the surface of the lake. As long as you understand the weaknesses of your cultivation realm, it will be easier for you to advance to the golden core realm. If your mind can't withstand it, you will fall into the lake. You can only come out by yourself after that. Thank you, Senior. Jianglan thanked him softly. In other words, he could see what his essence soul lacked. Perhaps it would be of great help to him to advance to the void refinement stage. However, he didn't know if others could see what he saw. Don't worry too much. No one can see what you're seeing, the ancient wine Taoist explained. However, at this moment, some of the disciples below were in an uproar. The master of the 9th summit opened a back door for him. The 9th location is where the senior brother from the 1st summit is at. That location is indeed good, but if you're entering through a back door, you won't be able to stay for long, right? He might come out in just a few minutes. That senior brother from the 1st summit has been in there for more than a day. I heard that he's trying to break through to the essence soul realm. If there's no comparison, there's no harm done. This junior brother is really unlucky. He's going to be so embarrassed. If that senior brother heard what you said, he would probably feel humiliated, right? There are people in there too. Jiang Lan's heart was calm, but he felt helpless. He actually liked being alone. It was fine if there's someone, as long as they did not interfere with one another. But if it was like the third summit's mystic realm, it would be very uncomfortable for him. Chapter 45. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The shock from Jing Ting on the 9th summit. Jing Ting and Mu Xiu looked at Ao Longyu in surprise. It was dark. Completely dark. However, Ao Longyu was still unconscious. As of now, there was no problem at all. This somewhat exceeded their expectations. Could it be that this array formation can last for a few more days? Jing Ting asked curiously. But senior sister Ao seems very calm. If it was like the previous times, it shouldn't be so easy now. Mu Xiu was astonished. This was different from what they had expected. Junior sister, your attainments in array formations are slightly higher. Do you think there is any difference between this array formation and the ones you used in your previous cultivations? Jing Ting asked Mu Xiu. Mu Xiu looked troubled as she shook her head at Jing Ting. Our attainments in array formations are not that different. Senior brother Jing, you are also aware that only by entering the bright deity array can we clearly sense the details. Apart from senior sister Ao, it's impossible for us to know the exact situation. Jing Ting and Mu Xiu had already finished drawing their array formation. They could actually cultivate now. However, they were still concerned about Ao Longyu's condition. Forget it, let's cultivate first. Senior sister Ao seems fine now, Jing Ting said. Mu Xiu nodded. That was indeed the case. They needed to cultivate now as well. The longer they stayed on the 9th summit, the more disadvantageous it was for them. Therefore, every day was very important. After one time, there wouldn't be much of an effect if the next time. Then, the two of them found a spot and were ready to cultivate. However, they had just sat down when they saw an unexpected change at Ao Longyu's side. A beam of light suddenly blossomed from Ao Longyu's body. The light was weak, but it was dazzling in Jing Ting and Mu Xiu's eyes. They stood up instantly. They looked at Ao Longyu in shock. Senior brother Jing, what do you think happened to senior sister Ao? Mu Xiu looked at Ao Longyu, appalled. She seemed to have a guess. Jing Ting naturally had a guess as well. He said in disbelief, junior sister must have read the notes left behind by our senior brothers and sisters who came to the 9th summit in the past as well. One of the records said that 100 years of merit, 1,000-year opportunity. In front of the netherworld cave is the radiance of the deity. It can't be, right? Opportunity and luck are one thing, but what's more important is that our senior brothers and sisters had a rather thorough understanding of array formations. We know far less about array formations than, at this moment, Mu Xiu thought of something and looked at Jing Ting in shock. It can't be, she thought about what happened in the morning. She remembered that someone had changed the array formation. I don't believe it either. Jing Ting looked bitter. But what happened this morning is the most likely reason behind such a change. We just don't know if this is truly the radiance of the deity. The array formation will blossom with light as one spiritual consciousness is conjured. At the moment, senior sister Ao does not have such a clear transformation. Before he could finish speaking, Jing Ting was rendered speechless. He saw the light from Ao Longyu's body extending toward the array formation. The entire array formation bloomed with light at an extremely fast speed. As the light appeared, a dragon's roar was suddenly heard. A snow-white dragon's shadow condensed beside Ao Longyu. It actually appeared. Mu Xiu and Jing Ting were in disbelief. This was the most difficult state that could happen with the bright deity array. Everything was perfect. The timing happened just as the auras of heaven and earth matched. The location was at the Netherworld cave, tempered on by the Netherworld aura. The social conditions were right as they had found the most suitable array formation. It was extremely rare for all three to combine perfectly. But they had encountered it. It was because the junior brother of the ninth summit had casually pointed out something wrong with the array during the day. It was unbelievable. Don't hesitate. Enter the array. Jing Ting immediately said. Mu Xiu naturally understood. Her speed wasn't any slower than Jing Ting's. They had missed the best opportunity, but it was not too late. Now, it would just be foolish if they continued to doubt and not believe what was going on. No matter what, they would wait until after tonight to talk about it. The radiance of the deity could only last for one night. One night was equivalent to months of their hard work. Jiang Lan was sent to a specific location on the surface of the lake by the ancient Wine Taoist. Continue walking forward from here as you look at the lake. How far you can walk will depend on yourself. If you fall into the lake and can't stabilize yourself, you will be brought out. And your sorry state will be seen. The ancient Wine Taoist reminded him as he left. Jiang Lan naturally agreed. However, he could sense that they emphasized a lot on strength here. On the surface, he was only at the perfected foundation establishment realm. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to walk far. It might be fine if one's mental fortitude was ordinary, but if one's talent was ordinary, it would be impossible. In the grand desolate world, whether one became an immortal or not depended mainly on innate potential. It was not that others could not become immortals. It was just that the journey was more difficult. When Jiang Lan signed into the system, he received a gift from the Great Tao. His path had been easier than anyone else's. However, even with that being the case, he still had to try his best. With such superior conditions, wouldn't it be a waste not to work hard? Jiang Lan didn't think too much about it. He took a deep breath and looked at the lake as he walked forward. There was no reflection in the lake. He could not see himself. He did not know why. He could only keep walking first. He was not walking fast, and he was walking very steadily. He, who did not know much about this place, planned to understand it first. After walking for a while, Jiang Lan stopped. He could clearly see his reflection begging to appear on the surface of the lake. It was very blurry and impossible to see clearly. The clearer it was, the more uncomfortable he felt. It was as if there was an endless abyss tugging at him. Feeling a little uncomfortable, he stopped. He wanted to take a break. However, just as he stopped, he felt someone at the side. Chapter 46. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When will Jiang Lan fall into the water? Jiang Lan would naturally look up to confirm if someone had appeared. He did not sense anyone just now. When he looked up, he realized that the other party was also very surprised. It was as if he had just seen him as well. It was a young man. He was wearing the Kunlun Mountain disciple uniform. His cultivation was at the perfected Golden Core realm. Is this the senior brother of the first summit that they're talking about? He's trying to break through to the Essence Soul realm here. Jiang Lan immediately made a guess. At this moment, the other party nodded at him. Jiang Lan immediately nodded in return. This was a senior brother, so he naturally would not be rude. Especially when the other party took the initiative to greet him. However, the other party didn't say anything. Jiang Lan naturally didn't say anything either. It was not suitable to talk while standing on the lake as it was easy to get distracted. As for why he couldn't sense the man earlier with his cultivation level, it must have been due to the peaceful void lake. After that, Jiang Lan didn't care about anything else. He realized that it was very difficult to fight here. It was as if he could only stand on the surface of the water if he was calm. If he wanted to fight with others, he had to maintain a calm heart. It wasn't that easy. Perhaps it was fine if he had a pure fighting spirit. But Jiang Lan felt that it was very difficult for him to do so. However, he did not know if the person opposite him could do it. He'll just take it as he could. He just needed to be in peak condition to prevent any accidents. Jianlan didn't have any intention to harm others, but he was always on guard. Gu Qi glanced at Jianlan and didn't pay further attention. He was a disciple of the first summit, a prodigy of this generation. For him to be able to come here, there had to be something special about him. His cultivation level was not high, but it didn't mean anything when they were still young. Except Gu Qi did not intend to fall behind the other party. He fell into the water earlier on and started from the top again after resting. Now that there were people here, he only hoped that they would vie for it against him. Or rather, they would make it something worth fighting for. He had taken a more remote path and was someone who fought to compete. It was very difficult for people to attack others here, but it was very easy for him. However, he would not attack. He would only compete. He was competitive. He was very pure. I look forward to you igniting my fighting spirit. Gu Qi muttered to himself. Then, he continued to walk forward. Only if the other party could keep up with him, would he be able to ignite his fighting spirit. If he couldn't keep up, he would still compete with him. This was technically a more advanced realm. However, with his current cultivation, it was very difficult for him to enter this realm. Jianlan didn't mind that the other party had moved. It was better for him if no one was around. It was fine to walk behind others. At least he felt more at ease. Then, Jianlan looked at the water surface and at his blurry reflection in the water. He walked forward. This seemed to be targeting his essence soul. Perhaps it could help him advance better. When Jianlan was sent into the peaceful void lake, some of the disciples outside were very curious as to when Jianlan would come out. I remember that he would be sent out once he fell to the bottom of the lake, right? Do you think that junior brother would come out in a sorry state? Who knows? You'll know after watching for a while. Those who enter for the first time usually don't perform well. I don't think that's possible. It's true that the junior brother of the 9th summit has average talent. However, don't forget one thing. He is a disciple of the 9th summit. Aren't the disciples of the 9th summit more rich in resources? A disciple who had recently joined Kunlun asked curiously. To others, Jianlan was their junior brother, but to these new disciples, Jianlan was their senior brother. However, there were very few disciples who could come to the peaceful void lake. Therefore, the disciples Jianlan saw were mostly his senior brothers. Unknowingly, Jianlan's cultivation on the surface had actually surpassed many senior brothers and sisters. This was because he had gathered all the resources of the 9th summit. As the only disciple of the 9th summit, his treatment far surpassed that of others. This included the geniuses from the other peaks. As long as his master had it, Jianlan would have whatever that could help him. This was why many people felt that Jianlan's cultivation level was due to the accumulation of these resources. A cultivation from such accumulation was unstable. Therefore, they believed it was difficult for him to go far. No, since this junior brother can stay on the 9th summit for so long, his temperament is definitely good. At least he's stronger than us. Therefore, he has an advantage on the peaceful void lake. But he's just a foundation establishment disciple after all. This is the first time he's in the peaceful void lake. If you aren't mentally prepared, it's very easy for you to fall to the bottom of the lake. It was especially so for this junior brother of the 9th summit. He rarely came out of seclusion and had never seen the world. He's more likely to fall to the bottom of the lake in an instant. Let's just watch and we'll see. I feel that even if you don't fall to the bottom of the lake, you will still be greatly affected. After being worn down a few times, you will have to come out to recuperate. The ancient wine Taoist drank his wine as he listened to their discussions. Actually, Mo Jingdong wanted him to take special care of Jianlan so that he could walk further and see more clearly. With his help, Jianlan could indeed walk further than before. But he decided not to help. He sent him straight to the center of the 9th location on the lake. Since he had given him special treatment, it could not be considered that he didn't do anything. However, he didn't know how Jianglan would perform. He was also looking forward to it. If he really falls to the bottom of the lake because he hasn't seen the world, I can just continue to give him the privilege of the 9th location. The ancient wine Taoist muttered to himself. This wine was too fragrant. He could not afford it and could not refuse. Mo Jingdong was really willing to do this for his disciple. That seemed about right. After all, he was the only personal disciple he had accepted after so many years. Chapter 47. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fight to compete. The 9th location of the peaceful void lake required not only one's state of mind, but also the strength of one's realm. In theory, one could not enter the 9th location unless they had reached the Golden Core realm. Even if one could enter, it would take quite some time for the ancient wine Taoist to execute it. Many people had brought wine to the ancient wine Taoist. Bdnvldm he just didn't want to go through the process again. Because it was a waste of time. There were some people who could not enter the peaceful void lake. They could only ask the ancient wine Taoist to send them in. After entering, it would more or less help a little. It was late at night. Some disciples were waiting by the pond outside the peaceful void lake. They wanted to see when the disciple of the 9th summit would come out. 2 hours had passed, but the other party still hadn't come out. Looks like the junior brother of the 9th summit did not fall into the bottom of the lake instantly. Under normal circumstances, he would have already fallen into the lake once by now. However, when he reaches his limit, he will still be sent out. Since it's the first time he is entering, his performance will more or less be unstable. If he stabilizes his mind, he can probably stay for half a day. He should then be able to stay for quite some time after that. I heard that those with better innate potential can only stay for 3 days at most. Only true geniuses can stay for 7 days. I heard that the senior brother from the first summit can stay up to a month at most. It seems like no one in the past 200 years can compare to the senior brother from the first summit. I wonder if the junior brother from the 9th summit will encounter the senior brother from the first summit. If he does, he'll realize that his luck isn't too good, right? We'll see. He might come out in a sorry state tomorrow morning. Jianglan was walking on the lake. He walked very slowly, and sometimes, he would stop. However, no matter how Jianglan walked, his head remained lowered, always looking at the lake. He realized that his reflection in the lake had an outline. However, the more he wanted to see clearly, the deeper he would sink. It was easy for other thoughts to appear as he was constantly attacked by his 7 emotions and 6 desires. Pride, wrath, sloth, greed, gluttony, envy, and lust. Jianglan could clearly feel these emotions growing. He felt as if he was about to be drowned out and controlled by them. All he could do was block them one by one. When resisting, he would walk his own path. However, when he walked, he would reflect on himself and find out if he had been imperceptibly controlled. However, even he could not maintain this state forever. Sometimes he would feel his heart begin to race. Once he realized it, he would immediately stop in his tracks to calm his heart down. This lake is indeed extraordinary. Jianglan muttered to himself. He could even sense his own flaws. Of course, some flaws could not be fixed just like that. So he could only just watch. Currently, it was not much help to his cultivation. Instead, it was beneficial for his temperament. Relatively speaking, it would be easier for him to stay in the netherworld cave in the future. Even though he could already stay safely in there, the danger was still there. He was still constantly vigilant. Jianglan stopped this time and looked around. He realized that that senior brother was not far away. He seemed to be resting as well. Not long after, the other party turned around. Seeing this, Jianglan immediately nodded. It was a form of courtesy. The other party nodded as well. After that, Jiang Lan saw the senior brother continue walking forward. He was full of fighting spirit. Seeing this, Jiang Lan knew that the other party was different from him. Everyone's approach was completely different. This senior brother was motivated by fighting. Jiang Lan felt inferior to him in this. There are indeed countless geniuses on Kunlun Mountain. Be it this person or those people in the mystic realm back then. Everyone had their own thoughts, their own ways, and their own paths. Everyone was working hard. Jiang Lan felt that he needed to work harder. Watching Gu Qi leave, Jiang Lan didn't move. It was not time for him to move yet. Gu Qi walked in front, his face full of fighting spirit. Indeed, he's worthy of me treating him as an opponent. It's been such a long time, but he's still able to keep up with me. Then, he shall become my enemy. The stronger you are, the happier I will be. I will definitely be stronger than you. Junior brother, although I don't know which peak you're from, we're enemies now. You will be the stairway to my improvement. I look forward to an even better performance from you. I look forward to the possibility of you surpassing me. Let's be evenly matched so that we can walk side by side and compete to be the strongest. This is what I want. I hope you can surprise me further. With a fighting spirit, Gu Qi walked forward step by step, each step more stable than the last. He realized that only peers could make him stronger. No one in the same generation or the same cultivation realm could compare to him in the peaceful void lake. Now, there was some development. He looked forward to it. The next morning, the light at the entrance to the netherworld cave began to dissipate. The three people in the array formation sat there as their spiritual consciousness condensed around their bodies, as if they had entered a completely new realm. Jing Ting and Mu Xiu had managed to make it in time for the final opportunity. They had obtained many benefits. When the light completely disappeared, the spiritual consciousness condensed outside of their bodies also slowly returned to their bodies. At this moment, they were one step closer to the essence soul realm. Jing Ting opened his eyes. He could feel his improvement. It was more obvious than their entire month here. Unfortunately, the radiance of the deity state only happened once. They did not dare to hope for a second time. Ao Longyu also opened her eyes at this moment. She was the one who had improved the most. She heaved a sigh of relief. She had made the right bet. Senior sister Ao. Jing Ting and Mu Xiu looked at Ao Longyu. They wanted to understand the situation immediately. Chapter 48. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The astounding junior brother Ao Longyu looked at the two people beside her. She was not surprised that they had entered the array formation. If she was outside back then, she would have also chosen to enter the array formation as well. This kind of opportunity was really rare. She did not expect to encounter it either. You want to ask about the array formation? Ao Longyu's voice was very soft and emotionless. It was as if no one was any different in her eyes. Yes. Now that I think of it, senior sister Ao should have some understanding of the junior brother of the 9th summit. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked rashly. And even take such a risk, Jing Ting asked. Although it was a hindsight, he felt that there was nothing wrong with this guess. Senior sister, can you tell us? The main thing is, Mu Xiu thought for a moment and said, this is unbelievable. Yes, it was indeed unbelievable. Even Ao Longyu found this unbelievable. She didn't expect to encounter the radiance of the deity either. Do you know about the event at the 3rd summit's mystic realm more than 30 years ago? Ao Longyu asked. I know a little. Under senior sister's protection, some junior brothers and sisters were able to survive. Later on, a mysterious person appeared. It was said that he was the secret guard of the 3rd summit's mystic realm. This senior took action to kill a group of enemies, Jing Ting said. These enemies killed some disciples as substitutes for the third summit's mystic realm. It was also because of this that a large inspection was conducted throughout Kunlun. In the end, we found many hidden enemies. That's why nothing has happened over the years since then. Mu Xiu was puzzled. But what does this have to do with what senior sister has to say? It does. Ao Longyu looked at the two of them and said, all you know is just the rough idea, but you don't know the details. At that time, there was fog in the mystic realm. Before I went to save the others, I found the junior brother of the ninth summit first. At that time, he could actually drive away the fog. Isn't the mist in the third summit's mystic realm special? It's basically impossible to disperse, Mu Xiu asked curiously. Yes. Ao Longyu nodded. I asked why. The answer I got was that he knew of a repelling array formation. He called it a trick. The array formation can repel the fog directly. This was why we could buy so much time. After that, I checked many documents and asked Master about similar array formations. The answer is that there has never been such a formation before. Ao Longyu looked at Jing Ting and Mu Xiu and said seriously, that repelling formation was comprehended by him from reading the books. Is the repelling array formation very complicated? Jing Ting asked. No, it's very simple. However, no one has ever thought of it that way, said Ao Longyu. Then, she roughly explained the principles of the array formation. This, Mu Xiu was surprised. Even if someone thought of this, it would be very difficult to succeed, right? Ao Longyu fell silent. Jing Ting and Mu Xiu were both surprised and in disbelief. Although the junior brother of the ninth summit's cultivation level was slightly inferior, he was not weak in other aspects. It was unbelievable. At the very least, he was a little stronger than them. All of them fell silent. A moment later, Jing Ting broke the silence. In that case, that junior brother might have already learned the rainbow auspicious clouds. What they saw that day might be true, but prejudice made them choose to doubt and not believe it. The three of them didn't know about this, but they increasingly felt that it was possible. They wanted to ask more. Perhaps when the other party returned, they would ask directly. It's already afternoon, why isn't he out yet? Someone asked curiously in front of the pond. There was always someone paying attention to this. They wanted to see that disciple of the ninth summit walk out in a sorry state. However, they were a little disappointed that the other party had not come out yet. Let's wait a little longer. There aren't many people in the peaceful void lake recently. If someone comes out, we will definitely notice. The peaceful void lake was behind the straw hut. However, to them, the rest behind it was covered by a fog. It was hard to see through it. It was harder to see the exact situation inside either. It's been so long. We should be able to meet that senior brother from the first summit soon. I wonder how the junior brother of the ninth summit felt when he saw the gap between them. I've met that senior brother once. It's hard to explain in words. Me too. It's true. I can't keep up with that senior brother at all. He's too terrifying. We were walking with difficulty while that senior brother was just strolling casually. I heard that no one in the Golden Core realm can compare to that senior brother. There isn't even an essence soul cultivator who can either. The ancient wine Taoist drank as he listened to their conversations. He felt that this was an interesting matter. However, he could roughly understand the situation inside. Those two people had indeed met. Jianglan walked for a long time before stopping again after feeling the pressure. The reflection in the lake had become much clearer. If he continued, it wouldn't be long before he could begin to see the details. He was beginning to feel it. He could feel the benefits this lake brought him. Lights began to appear in his essence soul. It was as if the moment his reflection appeared in the lake, the light was also sketching out his essence soul, making it brighter and more corporeal. I came to the right place. Jianlan was delighted. As long as his reflection was clear in the end, he had a feeling that he would quickly advance to the mid-stage essence soul realm. But there was no hurry. However, when he stopped this time, Jianlan discovered that there was still someone in front of him. It was still that senior brother. Jianlan nodded at him, and the other party nodded back. At this moment, the other party's fighting spirit was even stronger. Just like that, Jianlan walked on the lake. Whenever he felt the pressure, he would stop. Every time he stopped, he would see the same senior brother. However, that senior brother's fighting spirit only grew stronger each time. Jianlan felt that the other party's talent was ridiculously high. It was as if it was constantly improving. Just like that, a month passed. Chapter 49. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If he could be invincible as a saint, he would become a saint for a month. Gucci did not fall into the lake halfway. His battle intent soared. He caused ripples as he walked step by step on the lake's surface. However, he stood on the lake's surface and did not fall into the lake at all. But at the beginning, he was calm and relaxed. Slowly, it became more strenuous. Every time he stopped to rest, it wouldn't be long before he saw the junior brother following behind him. In the beginning, the other party didn't arrive so quickly. He had been anticipating his arrival. Soon, the other party became faster and faster. Sometimes, he felt like the other party was right behind him. Pressure. He felt an unprecedented pressure. This pressure aroused the fighting spirit in his heart. His heart was very pure. He just wanted to win against that junior brother. The other party had already become his opponent. An opponent that was worth fighting with his all. He did not dare to underestimate him at all. The other party was a powerful enemy who could walk alongside him. He was an opponent worthy of his respect. He had broken through his limits with every step he took. A month had passed, and he believed that he could finally be far ahead of this junior brother. But he was wrong. When he stopped, he realized that not only was this junior brother not shaken off by him, but he had also appeared beside him. He had caught up. The other party nodded at him. He nodded in return. This was out of respect. However, the other party took another step forward. He was taking the lead. The junior brother was walking very slowly. He could clearly feel that the other party's speed had not changed since the beginning. At this moment, he finally understood one thing. It wasn't that the other party had become faster. But he was slowing down. Gucci was in disbelief. As he looked at Jianglan's departing figure, a new fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. He had lost, but he wanted to regain his victory. Gucci took another step forward. Jianlan walked in front. He didn't look at his senior brother. He realized that this senior brother's fighting spirit was very strong. However, he couldn't make a move here either. Battle intent was also a form of mental state for that senior brother. If he destroyed it recklessly, he would only fall into the lake. During this month, Jianlan had been walking and stopping, but still maintaining his initial speed. He was neither in a hurry nor slacking off. He could already see his reflection, but his facial features were hard to see. However, he could also feel that there was more light shining on his essence soul, as if it was illuminating the flaws of it. This lake was very difficult to walk through, but there were indeed many benefits. It would be of sufficient help to his essence soul. However, after walking for a month, he did not know how big the lake was. Or they could be walking in circles. Without thinking too much, Jianlan continued walking forward. He didn't look back nor did he make any unnecessary movements. Behind him, Gucci was chasing after Jianlan. Jianlan had now become his target. Outside the peaceful void lake, some disciples were still meditating. At this moment, someone suddenly said, "It's been a month." "What's been a month?" Someone asked in confusion. That senior brother from the first summit has been in there for a month. I've already heard about this. No, it's that disciple from the 9th summit. He's been in there for a month. I've been waiting here for a month. He hasn't come out yet. I remember that this is his first time entering the peaceful void lake. A disciple of the 9th summit. Who is it? He hasn't left. I thought he would have long ago. I want to stay here. I want to see when he will come out. The ancient wine Taoist was also astonished. It had been a month. He had actually been inside for a month. Not only that, but he had also surpassed Gu Qi. His condition had never undergone any special changes. There are no ripples in his heart. He is as flexible and tolerant as water. Incredible. Mo Zhendong's disciple is truly impressive. The ancient wine Taoist drank his wine. He wanted to see how far Mo Zhendong's disciple could go. Jianlan looked at the lake and continued to walk forward. He had a feeling that every step he took now was taking him into the abyss. If he couldn't understand his heart and understand his intentions, he would not be able to continue walking here. Jianlan understood his heart and his intentions. There was not much he wanted to do. He wanted to stay on the 9th summit and sign in for his cultivation. Until the day he became invincible. If he could be invincible as an immortal, he would become an immortal. However, immortals were not invincible. So, he wanted to become a saint. Jianlan walked forward one step at a time, slowly seeing himself clearly. The light of his essence soul increased bit by bit. He could feel that the further he went, the faster his cultivation would progress. Jianlan, who had been walking for a month, had no idea how long he had been on the peaceful void lake. This time, he walked longer. 2 months passed again. He saw himself, but his eyes lacked his spirit. I should be able to see it after this final step. But, Jianlan looked around him. He didn't see anyone around. He also knew that he was almost at his limit. This final step had a chance of him falling to the bottom of the lake. Jianlan knew that his mental state was good, but there was still an end point. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have taken the last step. But he wanted to take this last step. If he didn't take this step, he would regret it. Perhaps he was still full of youthful vigor. This time, he did not restrain himself. He took a step forward. In an instant, Jianlan felt as if he had fallen into an abyss. Chapter 50. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Convinced on the peak of the first summit. A middle-aged man stood in a pavilion. Beside him stood a young man. His cultivation level was unfathomable, as if he had already seen the gate to immortality. Why haven't I seen Gu Qi lately? Feng Yixiao's voice was laced with dignity. Among the new disciples in the past 200 years, Gu Qi was the most talented. He naturally cared about him. In the past, he could still be seen challenging his senior brothers and sisters. But in the past few months, there had been no sound from him at all. Master doesn't know, but junior brother has been at the peaceful void lake for 3 months and has yet to appear, Linen replied respectfully. 3 months. Feng Yixiao was surprised. 3 months in the peaceful void lake was not an ordinary matter. Among the current generation of disciples, there was basically no one who could achieve this. I'll make a trip down. With that, Feng Yixiao disappeared on the spot and headed towards the peaceful void lake. At this moment, there were many people near the peaceful void lake. It's been 3 months. I've been waiting here for 3 months, but the disciple of the 9th summit still hasn't appeared. If I didn't know that nobody would die in the peaceful void lake, I would have suspected that he's already dead inside. However, I also realized that the senior brother from the first summit hasn't come out yet. Could they be competing amongst themselves? Surely not, right? That junior brother from the 9th summit doesn't have the capability. What do you mean he doesn't have the capability? Did you not see that he has been inside for 3 months? If he doesn't have the capability, then do you have it? I have to admit that it's not a coincidence that this junior brother can stay in the 9th summit. Although his talent was average and his cultivation depended on resources, his temperament is not ordinary. I really want to see what's going on inside. It's been 3 months. The ancient wine Taoist said nothing. He only continued to drink. However, when he placed the wine near his mouth, he suddenly paused. A gust of wind blew outside the straw hut, followed by the sound of waves. Waves are forming. The ancient wine Taoist was taken aback. Only those who were currently breaking through the limits of their mental state in the peaceful void lake could cause the lake water to surge. It was a refinement of one's mental state. A moment later, the ancient wine Taoist sighed. What a pity. If only he had enough talent. Then, the ancient wine Taoist shook his head. He was not his disciple, so he had nothing to worry about. Listen, there's a sound. At this moment, all of them looked behind the straw hut. They did hear some sounds. It's the sound of the waves. Are there waves forming? That's impossible, right? I remember that only happens if someone is trying to break through to the next level, right? Is it that senior brother from the first summit? It has to be. That senior brother from the first summit hasn't come out in so long. He must have had a breakthrough. Why can't it be the junior brother of the 9th summit? This is the first time he's entered. How can he have a breakthrough? Only by entering more times will there be a chance of a breakthrough. Because only then will you know what your limits are. Furthermore, the senior brother of the first summit has never exceeded a month in the past. Now, it's been 3 months. Isn't this a sign of a breakthrough? Gu Qi looked ahead in a daze. He did not know if it was an illusion, but he saw it. Light. A bright and dazzling light. Even though he didn't see the other party, he knew. That junior brother appeared covered in light. He was incomparably dazzling. He had broken through his own limits. How is this possible? Gu Qi knelt on the water. He felt powerless. He had chased after him with all his might. In the beginning, he could see the other party's figure, but later on, he could only see him vaguely. In the end, he could no longer see where he was. He could not keep up with his opponent's pace. He was left far behind. Now, the other party had already surpassed himself. It was not something he could compare to either. I've been defeated. I've been completely defeated. He had competed with all his might and pride. But he couldn't win against the other party. Who is he? Gu Qi opened his eyes and looked ahead. If possible, he wanted to challenge the other party in the future. Whoosh! The waves rose. Gu Qi looked at the light in front of him as it was slowly drowned out by the waves. He could not go any further. In the end, he was completely drowned out by the waves. Jian Lan took a deep breath. Then, he stood steadily on the water. Previously, he had taken the final step. He felt as if he had been swallowed into the abyss. All kinds of distracting thoughts were running through his mind. His heart was racing, and he felt like he could enter an endless abyss at any moment. He wanted to break free, but he could not. He knew that he would definitely fall into the lake. In the end, he gave up struggling and followed the stream. He wanted to see what was down there. He wanted to see what was pulling him down. To his surprise, when he went down, what he saw was water that was so clear that he could see the bottom of the lake, and he could see his own reflection. At that moment, he woke up. He stood on the quiet lake and looked at the reflection. At this moment, his reflection was no longer there. The thoughts in his heart seemed to have disappeared. In the end, he stopped walking. It was enough to walk till here. If he continued forward, he would definitely fall into the lake. Just as he was about to retreat, an array of light appeared beneath his feet. In the blink of an eye, he appeared by the side of the lake. The peaceful void lake had sent him back. There was another person standing by the lake. It was the senior brother from the first summit. Greetings, senior brother. Jiang Lan lowered his head and greeted. Gu Qi's body was wet due to the lake water, and he looked like he was in a sorry state. However, he also bowed back politely. Junior brother, you're really impressive. If he could afford to fight, he could afford to lose. He was utterly convinced by his loss.